The great hall of the Galaxy Council was quiet. 12 species sat in their seats, each one representing billions of lives across thousands of worlds. They had gathered many times before to discuss trade, borders, and peace. But today was different. Today, they gathered to watch a world Dai-Da ambassador. Trellis stood at the center of the room. His blue skin glowed under the lights as he spoke. The Krath Dominion has chosen its next target, a small planet in the outer arm of the galaxy. The natives call it Earth. A low murmur spread through the chamber. Everyone knew the Krath. They were conquerors. They had destroyed over 200 worlds in the last 1,000 years. No primitive species had ever survived their invasion. Counselor Brightmoss, the oldest being in the room, raised one of his many limbs. What do we know about these ... humans? Trellis touched a panel, and a blue planet appeared above them. It was beautiful. Oceans covered most of its surface. Green and brown land masses dotted the water. White clouds swirled in patterns. They are young, Trellis said. They have only had space travel for less than 100 years. They have visited their moon and sent machines to nearby planets. But they cannot travel between stars. They have no shields, no energy weapons. They are ... primitive. Then they are already dead, said Counselor Veth, a tall creature with silver eyes. Why do we watch? Brightmoss answered slowly. Because we must remember. Every species that falls to the Krath deserves to be remembered. It is the least we can do. No one argued. They all knew the truth. The Galaxy Council was powerful, but they feared war with the Krath. It was easier to watch and remember than to fight and die. Trellis activated the observation feeds. Hundreds of small cameras hidden throughout the galaxy sent images back to the Council. They could see everything on the screen. The Krath invasion fleet dropped out of hyperspace. 300 warships appeared above Earth like dark shadows. They were massive. Each ship carried thousands of warriors. Each warrior was bred for killing. On the lead ship, Fleet Commander Gorath stood on his command deck. He was old for a Krath, nearly 400 years. He had conquered 63 worlds in his lifetime. This would be 64, but something bothered him. His scouts had spent months studying the humans before the invasion. They had learned their languages, watched their broadcasts, studied their history. What they found was strange. The humans had been fighting each other since the beginning of their civilization. War after war after war. They had weapons that could destroy entire cities. They had killed millions of their own kind. They had never known peace. Most primitive species were peaceful. They spent their energy on art or science or farming. When the Krath came, they did not know how to fight. They surrendered or they died, but humans were different. They were already warriors. Gorath pushed the thought away. It did not matter. The Krath had better weapons, better ships, better soldiers. The humans would fall like all the others. Begin the invasion, he commanded. Below, on the surface of Earth, it was a normal morning in Seoul. People went to work. Children went to school. Cars filled the streets. No one looked up at the sky. Then the first Krath dropships broke through the clouds. They came down fast, burning through the atmosphere like meteors. People stopped and pointed. Some thought it was a movie. Some thought it was a military exercise. Some just stared, unable to understand what they were seeing. The dropships landed in the center of the city. Their doors opened and Krath warriors poured out. They were tall, almost 3 meters. Their skin was dark red like dried blood. They carried weapons that glowed with deadly energy. The screaming started in the Galaxy Council chamber. The representatives watched in silence. They had seen this before. The panic. The running. The death. It was always the same . But then something happened that made Counselor Brightmoss lean forward in his seat. A human ran toward the Krath warriors, not away from them. He was wearing a uniform. A soldier. He was shouting something and waving his arms, directing other humans to safety. Then he raised his weapon, a simple metal thing that fired small projectiles, and he shot at the nearest Krath. The bullet bounced off the Krath's armor. The warrior turned and raised his energy weapon, but before he could fire, 3 more humans appeared. They shot at the Krath's face, at the gaps in his armor, at his weapon. The Krath stumbled. More humans came. They were not running away. They were running toward the fight. In Snow Paulo and Lagos, the same thing was happening. The Krath landed, expecting fear and surrender. Instead, they found resistance. On his command ship, Fleet Commander Gorath received the first reports from the surface. His officers looked confused. "Commander, the humans are fighting back." "Of course they are fighting back," Gorath said. "All species fight back at first. They will stop soon." But they did not stop. As the hours passed, the reports became more concerning. The humans were organized. They were communicating across their entire planet. Their primitive weapons were not effective against Krath armor, but the humans kept finding ways. They used fire. They used explosives. They used vehicles as weapons. Gorath watched a recording of a human driving a truck filled with fuel into a group of Krath warriors. The explosion killed 12 of his soldiers. The human had died too. But he had been smiling. In the Galaxy Council chamber, Counselor Brightmoss spoke quietly. "They are not surrendering." "They will," said Counselor Veth. "They always do." But Brightmoss was not so sure. He had lived for 3,000 years. He had seen many species face extinction. He had never seen anything like this. On the screen, the sun set over Earth. The first day of the invasion was ending. The Krath controlled nothing. The humans had lost thousands of lives. But they were still fighting, and somewhere in Seoul, a young lieutenant named Do-Yun Park was leading his soldiers through the burning streets, planning their next attack. The war for Earth had just begun. Lieutenant Do-Yun Park had not slept in 3 days. His eyes were red and his hands were shaking, but he could not stop. Not now. Not while the aliens still walked on his planet. He stood in a subway tunnel beneath Seoul. Around him were 40 soldiers, some from his unit, some from other units that had lost their commanders. They were tired, dirty, and scared, but they were alive. "Listen to me," Do-Yun said. His voice was calm even though his heart was beating fast. "The aliens are stronger than us. Their weapons are better than ours. Their armor stops our bullets." The soldiers looked at each other. Some of them were very young, barely 20 years old. "But they do not know our city," Do-Yun continued. "They do not know these tunnels. They do not know our buildings. And they do not know us." He pulled out a map and spread it on the ground. "They have made a base in the old shopping district. Maybe 200 of them. They think they are safe there." A young sergeant named Wuhan knelt beside him. She was a communications specialist, small but fierce. She had been awake even longer than Do-Yun, working to connect the scattered human forces across the city. "I've been watching their movements," she said. "They patrol in groups of 10. They return to base every 4 hours. There is a gap between patrols at midnight." Do-Yun nodded. "Then we hit them at midnight." One soldier raised his hand. He was young, maybe 19. "Sir, how do we kill them?" "Our guns don't work." Do-Yun smiled. It was not a happy smile. "Private, humans have been killing things bigger and stronger than us since the beginning of time. We killed lions with spears. We killed elephants with arrows. We killed whales with boats and ropes." He held up a bottle filled with liquid. A rag was stuffed in the top. "This is called a Molotov cocktail. It is just fuel and fire. Very simple. Very old. And it burns through their armor." He picked up another object. It looked like a metal pipe with wires attached. "This is an improvised bomb. We made it from things we found in the streets. It will not destroy their armor, but it will knock them down. And when they are down..." He pulled out a knife. "We finish them the old way." The soldiers stared at him. Some looked scared. Some looked excited. All of them understood. That night, Do-Yun led his soldiers through the dark tunnels. They moved in silence, their footsteps soft on the concrete floor. Above them, the city burned. They came up through a maintenance exit 2 blocks from the Krath base. The aliens had set up lights around their position, but there were shadows between the buildings. The humans moved through the shadows like ghosts. Jiwoo had been right about the patrol gap. At midnight, the streets were empty. The Krath were confident. Why would they worry about primitive humans? Do-Yun raised his hand. His soldiers stopped. He pointed at 4 different positions. The soldiers split into groups and disappeared into the darkness. Then Do-Yun lit his Molotov cocktail and threw it. The bottle flew through the air and crashed into the Krath base. Fire exploded outward. The aliens shouted in their strange language and ran to see what was happening. That was when the bombs went off. 4 explosions, 1 from each position. The Krath were thrown to the ground. Their armor protected them from the blasts, but they were confused. Disoriented, the humans attacked. They came from every direction, screaming and throwing fire. The Krath tried to fight back, but their energy weapons were designed for open battle, not close combat in narrow streets. The humans got close, too close for the aliens to aim properly. Do-Yun found himself face to face with a Krath warrior. The alien was huge, towering over him. Its red eyes burned with hatred. Do-Yun did not hesitate. He threw fuel in the alien's face and followed it with his lighter. The Krath screamed as fire covered its head. Do-Yun stabbed his knife into the gap between its neck and shoulder. Again and again until the alien stopped moving. Around him, his soldiers were doing the same thing. It was brutal. It was bloody. It was war. When it was over, 163 Krath warriors were dead. The humans had lost 22 soldiers. Jiwoo stood beside Do-Yun, breathing hard. Her face was covered in alien blood. "I got the message out," she said. "Everyone knows what we did here. Everyone knows the aliens can be killed." Across the world, the same story was repeating. In Snow Paulo, a group of police officers and gang members fought together against the invaders. In Lagos, soldiers and civilians built barricades and defended them street by street. In Tokyo, Moscow, New York, Cairo, the humans fought back. On his command ship, Fleet Commander Gorath received the casualty reports. 300 warriors dead in one day. 300 against primitives with fire and knives. His officers were silent. They did not understand what was happening. Gorath understood. He had studied the humans. He knew what they were. "They are not like other species," he said quietly. "They have been at war with each other forever. Every generation, every century. They have been practicing for this moment their entire existence." He looked at the blue planet on his screen. It looked so peaceful from space. So beautiful. "We have kicked a hornet's nest," he said. "And now we must deal with the swarm." He gave the order to land more troops. Many more troops. This would not be a quick conquest. This would be a real war. In the Galaxy Council chamber, Counselor Brightmoss watched everything with growing amazement. The primitive humans were not just surviving. They were adapting, learning, fighting back with a ferocity he had never seen before. "What are these creatures?" Counselor Veth whispered. Brightmoss did not answer. He did not know. In 3,000 years he had never seen a species like humans, but he was beginning to understand why they had survived so long on their violent little world. They were very, very good at war. And the Krath had just given them a reason to unite. 3 weeks had passed since the Krath came to Earth. The aliens had expected victory in 3 days. Instead, they had found something they never expected, a planet that refused to die. General Yuna Kim stood in an underground bunker somewhere in the mountains. She was 52 years old, with gray hair and sharp eyes. Before the invasion, she had been preparing for retirement. Now she commanded all human forces in Asia. The bunker was filled with screens showing battles across the continent. Red dots showed Krath positions. Blue dots showed human forces. There were many more blue dots than red. "Report," she said. A young officer stepped forward. "The aliens have retreated from Seoul, Tokyo, and Beijing. They still hold some rural areas, but they cannot enter the cities. Every time they try, we push them back." Yuna nodded. "Casualties?" "Heavy on both sides, General." But we are replacing our losses faster than they are, and The officer hesitated. Our weapons are getting better. This was true. In 3 weeks, human scientists had learned more about alien technology than they had learned about anything in decades. Every dead Krath, every destroyed vehicle, every captured weapon was studied, tested, and copied. The aliens had energy shields. Now humans had bullets that could break those shields. The aliens had armor. Now humans had acids that could melt that armor. The aliens had fast ships. Now humans had missiles that could hit those ships. Adaptation. That was the human way. Learn, change, improve, fight on the other side of the world. Private First Class Taiwan Lee sat in a dark room filled with computer screens. He was 24 years old. Before the invasion, he had been a professional gamer. Famous for his quick reflexes and strategic mind, now he used those skills to kill aliens. In front of him, 6 screens showed feeds from 6 different combat drones. His hands moved across the controls, guiding the drones through the streets of what used to be Los Angeles. The city was a war zone now, half destroyed, smoke rising from broken buildings. Taiwan saw a group of Krath warriors moving through an intersection. There were 12 of them, walking in formation, weapons ready. He smiled, his fingers danced across the keyboard. 3 drones dropped from the sky, each one carrying a small bomb. The Krath looked up, but it was too late. The drones exploded among them, killing 8 warriors instantly. The remaining 4 tried to run. Taiwan guided his other 3 drones to follow them. 2 more bombs? 2 more dead Krath. The last 2 aliens found cover behind a destroyed car. They fired their energy weapons at the sky, but the drones were too small. Too fast. Taiwan waited, patient, calm. One of the Krath made a mistake. He moved his arm out of cover for just 1 second. Taiwan's drone was there. The bomb dropped. The alien died. The last Krath ran. Taiwan let it go. He wanted to tell the others what happened. He wanted them to know that nowhere was safe. Across the room, other drone pilots were doing the same thing. Hundreds of drones, controlled by former gamers, former hobbyists, former children who had grown up playing video games. Now they played a different game. Taiwan's commander, Colonel Yunwoo Beek, walked up behind him. Good work, Private. How many today? 47 confirmed kills, sir. 12 assists. Yunwoo nodded. He was a serious man, 40 years old, with scars on his face from the first week of fighting. We're getting reports that they're changing their tactics. They're scared to move in small groups now. They're clustering together for protection. Taiwan smiled again. Good, that makes them easier to find. Yunwoo put his hand on Taiwan's shoulder. Get some rest when you can. We have a big operation coming. We're going to take one of their ships. In the Galaxy Council chamber, Councillor Trellis was speaking. His voice was shaking. This should not be possible. The humans have no starships. They have no experience in space warfare. They are fighting with fire and metal projectiles. On the screen, they watched human soldiers attacking a Krath patrol. The humans used the terrain perfectly, hiding behind walls and in buildings, striking from unexpected angles. When Krath reinforcements arrived, the humans disappeared into tunnels and sewers. The Krath had air support. They bombed the buildings. But when the smoke cleared, the humans were gone. And that night they came back and killed more Krath. Councillor Brightmoss spoke softly. They are not fighting like a primitive species. They are fighting like us, Councillor Veth finished. They are fighting like an advanced species. They are using strategy, coordination, technology adaptation. In 3 weeks, they have learned what most species learn in 3 centuries. Or they already knew, Brightmoss said. They have been fighting for so long. War is in their blood, their culture, their history. They did not need to learn how to fight. They only needed to learn who to fight. On his command ship, Fleet Commander Gorath made a decision he had never made in 400 years of conquest. He called for reinforcements. The message went out across Krath space. The invasion of Earth was failing. More troops were needed. Many more troops. In the Krath Dominion, this caused confusion. The Krath had conquered over 200 worlds. They had never needed reinforcements. Not once, but Gorath knew the truth. He had seen the human casualty reports. They had lost hundreds of thousands of soldiers. And yet they kept fighting. More humans joined the war every day. Old men, young women, children barely old enough to hold weapons. They were not fighting to survive anymore. They were fighting to win, and somewhere deep in his warrior heart, Fleet Commander Gorath felt something he had not felt in centuries. He felt respect. These humans were worthy enemies. They deserved better than extinction. But the Dominion had given him orders. Earth must fall. And if it would not fall to ground troops, it would fall to orbital bombardment. The Grand Fleet was coming. 1,000 ships. The largest force the Krath had ever assembled. When it arrived, Earth would burn, unless the humans could find a way to stop it, and in laboratories around the world, human scientists were working day and night, studying alien technology, building new weapons, preparing for a war that would reach beyond their planet and into the stars. The humans were not waiting to be saved. They were saving themselves. 2 months after the invasion began, the humans captured their first starship. Colonel Yunwu Beek led the operation personally. He had spent 3 weeks planning it, studying Krath patrol patterns, learning how they operated their vessels. Now he stood in a modified cargo rocket, surrounded by 50 of the best soldiers Earth had to offer. The plan was insane. Everyone said so. But Yunwu had learned something important about the Krath. They could not imagine humans in space. They watched the ground. They watched the sky. They did not watch for small rockets coming up from below. The cargo rocket was not built for war. It was built to carry supplies to the old space station. But human engineers had modified it, adding weapons, adding armor, adding grappling hooks that could attach to alien hulls. 30 seconds to contact, the pilot announced. Hyun-woo checked his weapon. It was a new design built from captured Krath technology. It fired energy bolts instead of bullets. Human scientists had figured out how to make them in just 6 weeks. Remember, he told his soldiers, they are bigger than us, but their ships are built for them. The corridors are wide. The rooms are tall. We use that against them. Stay low, move fast. Never stop moving. The rocket hit the Krath cruiser with a loud crash. The grappling hooks fired, attaching to the alien hull. Then the cutting charges went off, burning through the metal. Hyun-woo was the first one through the hole. The inside of the ship was dark and red, like the inside of a living creature. Emergency alarms screamed in the Krath language. Somewhere warriors were shouting, running toward the breach. Good? Hyun-woo wanted them to come. The first Krath appeared at the end of the corridor. He was massive, 3 meters tall, carrying an energy rifle. He saw Hyun-woo and raised his weapon. Hyun-woo was faster. His new gun fired 3 bolts. 2 hit the alien's chest. 1 hit his head. The Krath fell. Behind Hyun-woo, his soldiers spread out through the ship. They moved in teams of 5, clearing rooms, securing corridors. The Krath fought back hard, but they were not used to fighting inside their own ships. They were not used to enemies who moved like shadows. In the engine room, Hyun-woo found what he was looking for, the ship's command console. A Krath engineer was trying to destroy it. Hyun-woo shot him before he could finish. "Ship is ours," Hyun-woo announced over the radio. "Send the science teams?" On Earth, Dr. Yoonji Choi received the news with tears in her eyes. She was a physicist, 43 years old, with tired eyes and messy hair. Before the invasion, she had been working on fusion energy research. Now she led humanity's efforts to understand alien technology. And now she had a whole ship to study. The captured cruiser was brought down to a secret facility in the mountains. Teams of scientists from every nation worked together, taking the ship apart piece by piece, learning its secrets. The energy weapons were simple once you understood the principles. Human factories began producing them within weeks. The shields were harder, but not impossible. Human scientists figured out the frequencies, the power requirements, the materials needed. The engines were the biggest prize. They used something the Krath called fold space, a way to travel faster than light. Human physicists had theorized about such things for centuries. Now they had a working example. Dr. Choi worked 20 hours a day. She forgot to eat. She forgot to sleep. All she could think about was the Grand Fleet coming closer every day. "We have 6 months," she told her team. 6 months to go from primitive rockets to starships. 6 months to learn what the Krath learned in 10,000 years. One of her assistants, a young man named Junsu, shook his head. "That's impossible." Dr. Choi looked at him with her tired eyes. "Everything we have done in the last 2 months was impossible. We fought aliens with fire and knives. We captured a starship with a cargo rocket. We built energy weapons in our factories." She pointed at the alien ship in front of them. "This is not impossible. This is just difficult. And humans are very good at difficult things." In the Galaxy Council chamber, Counselor Brightmoss watched the humans with growing wonder. His species had taken 50,000 years to develop faster than light travel. The Krath had taken 30,000. The fastest species in recorded history had taken 5,000. The humans were doing it in months. "How is this possible?" Counselor Veth demanded. "They are primitives. They should not be able to understand this technology." Brightmoss thought about the question for a long time. "They are not like us," he finally said. "We develop technology slowly, carefully, one step at a time. We had millions of years of peace to learn and grow." He gestured at the screens showing Earth. The humans had no peace. They had constant war. They had to adapt or die. They had to learn fast or be destroyed. For thousands of years, they have been practicing this one skill, learning quickly under pressure. He paused. "We gave them peace by accident. When the Krath attacked, all the human nations stopped fighting each other. For the first time in their history, they are working together. All their intelligence, all their creativity, all their aggression focused on one enemy." Counselor Veth was silent for a moment. "What happens when they defeat the Krath?" Brightmoss did not answer. He did not want to think about that. On the Krath homeworld, the Grand Fleet prepared to depart. 1,000 ships, carrying millions of warriors. The largest military force the Dominion had ever assembled. Fleet Commander Gorath watched the preparations from his command ship. He had received new orders. If the ground invasion failed, he was to destroy Earth from orbit. Glass the planet. Kill every human. He did not want to. In 2 months, he had developed a strange respect for these primitive creatures. They fought with honor. They protected their families. They never surrendered, but orders were orders. The Dominion could not allow a primitive species to defeat them. It would encourage rebellion across their empire. "Commander," his officer said. "The fleet is ready." Gorath nodded. "Set course for Earth." The Grand Fleet moved toward the stars. Toward the little blue planet that refused to die. And on Earth, in secret facilities around the world, humans were building ships of their own. The final battle was coming. 6 months after the invasion began, the Grand Fleet arrived at Earth. 1,000 Krath warships dropped out of fold space, filling the darkness with their massive shapes. They were beautiful in a terrible way, each one a mountain of metal and weapons, designed for destruction. Fleet Commander Gorath stood on his command deck and looked at the blue planet below. It was still there, still alive. Still fighting, his ground forces had been pushed back to a few small territories. They held nothing important. The humans had won the ground war, but war in space was different. The humans had no experience, no training, no fleet. Then Gorath saw something that made him stop breathing. Ships, human ships. 47 of them, orbiting Earth in a defensive formation. They were ugly by Krath standards, angular and rough, built in a hurry from stolen technology and human creativity. They were smaller than Krath warships. There were far fewer of them, but they were there. "Impossible," Gorath whispered. 6 months ago, these creatures could barely reach their own moon. Now they had a space fleet. Admiral Sujin Yoon stood on the bridge of the Defiance, humanity's first true warship. She was 58 years old, a naval officer who had spent her career commanding ships on the ocean. Now she commanded ships among the stars. Around her, the bridge crew worked in calm silence. They were young, most of them. Scientists, engineers, pilots who had learned their jobs in weeks instead of years. They should have been terrified. They were not. "Admiral," her sensor officer reported, 1,000 enemy ships. They are moving into attack formation. Sujin nodded. "All ships prepare for battle. Remember your training. Remember what we're fighting for." She looked at the main screen, at the massive alien fleet coming toward them. 47 ships against 1,000? The math was simple. The math said they would lose, but humans had never been very good at math. "They think we're scared," Sujin said quietly. "They think we'll run. They don't understand." She stood straight and spoke clearly. "All ships attack." The human fleet moved forward. In the Galaxy Council chamber, every representative was watching. They had gathered from across the galaxy to witness this moment. Either the humans would be destroyed, or something impossible would happen. Counselor Brightmoss leaned forward. His ancient eyes fixed on the screens. The Krath fleet fired first. Thousands of energy beams crossed the darkness, aimed at the tiny human ships. The human ships did not try to dodge. They flew straight into the fire, but something strange happened. The energy beams hit, but the human ships did not explode. They had shields, better shields than anyone expected, and their hulls were covered in something that absorbed energy, something the Krath had never seen. Then the human ships fired back. They did not use energy weapons. They used something else. Missiles, thousands of missiles, moving at incredible speed, faster than anything the Krath sensors could track. Each missile was small, but each one carried a nuclear warhead modified to penetrate Krath shields. The first Krath ship exploded. Then another. Then 10 more. The Galaxy Council watched in silence as the human missiles tore through the Krath fleet. The aliens tried to shoot them down, but there were too many, moving too fast. Coming from too many directions. Then Dr. Yunji Choi's greatest creation activated. The humans called it the hammer. It was a gravitational weapon based on Krath technology, but improved, enhanced, made more powerful. It created a focused pulse of gravity that crushed everything in its path. The Defiance fired the hammer at the center of the Krath formation. 50 Krath ships crumpled like paper. Their hulls collapsed. Their crews died instantly. 50 ships? Destroyed in 1 second. Fleet Commander Gorath watched his fleet dying and felt something he had never felt in 400 years of war. Terror. "All ships retreat," he ordered. But it was too late. The human ships were among them now, moving through the Krath formation like wolves among sheep. The human pilots flew like they did not care about dying. They rammed their ships into Krath vessels. They detonated bombs at point-blank range. They fought with a ferocity that made the Krath look timid. In 90 minutes, it was over. 400 Krath ships were destroyed. 600 surrendered. Fleet Commander Gorath was captured alive, his ship taken by Colonel Hyunwoo Beek and his boarding teams. The human fleet had lost 23 ships. 712 humans died that day. But Earth survived. In the Galaxy Council chamber, there was only silence. Then Ambassador Min Jae Kong appeared on their screens. He was a small man, 60 years old, with gray hair and gentle eyes. Before the invasion, he had been a diplomat working for peace between nations. Now he spoke for all of humanity. "Members of the Galaxy Council," he said, "I am the voice of Earth. You watched our invasion. You watched our suffering. You did nothing to help us." The council members shifted uncomfortably in their seats. "We understand," Min Jae continued. "We were primitive. We were not worth the risk. We do not blame you for your choice." He paused. "But we are no longer primitive. In 6 months, we have built a space fleet. We have defeated the greatest military force in the galaxy. We have shown you what humans can do." He looked directly at the camera, and every council member felt like he was looking at them personally. "We do not want war with you. We have had enough war. We want peace. We want friendship. We want to join your council as equals." Counselor Brightmoss found his voice. And if we refuse? Minjay smiled. It was a sad smile, tired and old. Then you will learn what the Krath learned. You cannot ignore us. You cannot contain us. You cannot stop us. He leaned forward slightly. We will come anyway. We will build bigger fleets. We will explore your stars. We will meet your species. And eventually you will have to deal with us. It is better to do it now, as friends. The council was silent for a long moment, then Councillor Brightmoss spoke. I vote yes. Let the humans join. One by one, the other council members voted. The result was unanimous. Humanity had earned its place among the stars. 1 year later, Earth had changed. Cities were rebuilt. Memorials stood in every nation honoring those who had died. Children were born who would never know a world before first contact. General Yuna Kim retired to write her story. Dr. Yoonji Choi led humanity's first exploration mission to another star system. Admiral Sujin Yoon commanded a fleet of 200 ships, protecting Earth and its new allies. Colonel Yun Woo-beek trained the next generation of space marines. Do-Yun Park, now a general himself, worked with former enemies to keep the peace, and across the galaxy, a new saying spread from species to species. A warning passed in quiet voices, do not wake the humans. They were peaceful now. They explored the stars with wonder in their eyes. They made friends everywhere they went. They built and created and learned with incredible speed, but everyone remembered what they had done. Everyone remembered the war. Everyone remembered the 90 minutes that changed the galaxy forever. The humans were peaceful, but they had not forgotten how to fight, and neither had anyone else.